Hey guys, and welcome to Quality Shot. I have with me Asjad from Cricket4Us 2.0 and Venu from Venu's Cricket Catch Up. Okay, guys, let's go through South Africa versus Sri Lanka. So the squads have been announced, and we're looking forward to the test match that will be starting on Boxing Day, one of three test matches. Don't worry, we'll also be previewing the other two matches and squads, etc. as well. Okay, let's go straight into then the South Africa squad. I'll just quickly go through the squad very briefly, and then we can pick out kind of the biggest talking points. I don't want to talk about every single person, obviously, because we could be here all day. So Quinton de Kock, captain and wicketkeeper. So temporary temporary captain anyway at the moment. Bavuma, Markram, Du Plessis, Warren Hendricks, Dean Elgar, Maharaj and Gidi, Van der Dussen, Cyril Irwi, Anrik Nortje, Sturman, Wian Mulder, Keegan Peterson, Carl Varane, Miguel Pretorius, Dwayne Pretorius, Lutho Sipamla, and Reynard van Tonder. I'll probably butcher some of those names for the South African fans watching. Apologies in advance. Okay, so 7 debutants, for South Africa. But the first thing I want to touch upon is Quinton de Kock. Obviously, a little bit inexperienced, doesn't want to be doing this long term, but is happy to do it in the interim. Venu, do you think him being a little bit inexperienced in the test arena in terms of captaincy, do you think that'll have a detrimental effect to South Africa, or do you think he's got enough experience in other formats that actually he can kind of push forward and in the test format and actually do a good job against Sri Lanka?
I think, yes, he is inexperienced, but I'm sure he'll learn on the job. And you've got to remember that there's Faf du Plessis there in that South African side. So I'm sure he'll learn a lot from him. So I was just a bit disappointed that he actually came out and said, I'm not doing this long term. Like I don't think you should really let people know. I think in terms of your teammates, I don't think that's quite a good message to send to your teammates. But maybe that's another topic discussion to have. But yeah, I'm sure he'll do a decent job. But he is definitely less experienced than Sri Lanka's counterpart, Sri Lanka's captain, Karunaratne. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how Quinton de Kock copes.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think a little bit, yeah, as you said, a little bit disappointing, but I guess he is the captain in the other two formats now. So from my knowledge anyway, so he maybe doesn't want to take on all three formats. There aren't many captains nowadays that do that, apart from Pakistan and India. But anyway, but they're kind of a different kettle of fish.
And New Zealand.
Yes, and New Zealand. That's a good point. Ken Williamson. Yeah, to be fair. So actually, yeah, it's not too out of the realms of possibility at the moment. But yeah, I think maybe some people are just not cut out for it. Maybe potentially. Okay, Usher, do you have anything to add to that?
No, not to that point. Just I think he feels like there's going to be a lot of pressure because he's going to be batting quite a lot, and there's talks that he might move himself up the order, not too far up the order, but at least 5-4, something like that, to provide some stability to the side. So maybe it's just he thinks that taking up everything is going to be a bit too much.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, let's then talk about some of the talking points in the South Africa side. So, I think for me, in terms of batting, the biggest thing for me is Aiden Markram. So, Aiden Markram, I don't know if you guys know, but his first 10 innings, so I looked this up and I'm sure you guys might have seen it. His first 10 innings for South Africa, he scored 1,000 runs, including 400s, an average of just over 55. And then his next 10 innings, he scored 424 runs, an average of only 22. And they're kind of struggling a little bit for form. I was really impressed with him when I saw him early doors. I think he's still only like 24, 25. I might be wrong. Or he's around that 24, 26 age, so he's still got time. And there are talks of him potentially picking up the test captaincy long term as one of the candidates if he does carry on his form. Is he going to be a kind of make or break? Is this going to be a make or break series for him in terms of, do you think they might rest him if obviously he doesn't come good in this series, or drop him? And what do you guys think of him as a player? Do you think he's just lacking a bit of confidence, Venu?
Yeah, I do think it's a confidence thing. for him. Maybe the opposition bowlers have worked him out a bit, because I think that does happen in international cricket where you're new to the scene. You do well initially, and then bowlers work you out, the opposition work you out, and know how to get you out. But hopefully he gets a score this series. Yeah, he's a quality player, and yeah, that's that stat you told me, Fazan, I didn't know about that, so that's very impressive. But the thing is, who's in the ranks that could replace him? And I think he will be given he'll be given a fair shot at it, even though if he doesn't do too well this series.
Yeah, no, I agree. Should you want to add anything to that?
Just the fact that I agree with Venu. I think they're going to give him at least this series and the Pakistan series coming up, just to see how he fares in different conditions. And who knows, knowing Pakistan, they always get people into form, but the opposition. So they might do that for him as well.
Well, let's see. Hopefully not. Okay, let's then go on to another talking point. So obviously 7 debutants for South Africa. That's quite a lot for a squad. I mean, pretty surprising. Quinton de Kock did cite that he wanted to bring through these younger players now because there needs to be a bit of an overhaul, because obviously they've had people like Hashim Amla obviously retired, Philander retired, people like that obviously. Du Plessis now coming to the end of his career, so they're looking now to fill in the gaps that have been made by people retiring or just getting old. Obviously Dumini hasn't been in the fold for a bit of time in Test cricket especially as well, so there's these types of players. So just to quickly go through the debutants. So Sturman, Miguel Pretorius, because Dwayne Pretorius has played before, Sipomla, Varane and Keegan Peterson, Sarah Irwi and Reynard I'm butchering these, Van Tonda and Wien Mulder. Okay, so Asjad, how much do you know about any of these players, and do you want to touch upon it? Maybe let's go on Sipomla first, because that's a bit of an easier one, because I think obviously he featured in some of the T20s for South Africa. He's only, I think, 20, he's 22. Obviously featured in some of the T20s, but he's seen as like a long-term replacement for, well, a long-term bowling option in Test cricket as well, because in first-class cricket, he took 24 wickets at 24 apiece as an average. So, yeah, what did you think of him? Obviously, didn't shine too bright in the T20s, but can you see him potentially having an impact or even getting a chance?
Well, I'll tell you what. Rather than concentrating just on Sapamla, I want to just give you a broad. So the South African bowling at the moment, right? There's so many injuries. You've got Rabada who's injured. You've got Sturman who might be injured. You've got Lungia Giri who might be injured. It's still recovering. Yeah. You've got Sapamla and Pretorius as well. They might be in the stage where they're kind of injured, maybe not.
Yeah. I think Bjorn Hendricks as well. I think he's got a knock, hasn't he? So.
No, I think Hendricks was taken out because of the COVID protocols.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So South Africa are a bit running on fumes at the moment. So personally, I only know about Sapamla, as you mentioned. I know a bit about Sturman. I've seen his stats like a few weeks ago, and he's a decent bowler. But I think what South Africa need to consider is Anrik Nortje is going to play in the Test matches, right? He has to be their spearhead. I'm sure he hasn't played that many Test matches so far, and he's already becoming the spearhead because Rabada is gone, and Ngidi is not the best in Test, at least at the moment either. So it's very interesting because I think they realized
only 6 matches. You're right.
Yeah.
For Nortje. Sorry, go on, Karen.
Yeah, 6 matches, which means he's very green at the moment, but he has to take up that responsibility. And because South Africa is going to make pitches which are bowler friendly or pace bowling friendly, seaming, swinging, bouncy tracks. So I think that's the reason why they picked so many bowlers for the tournament. Again, not sure about each individual player, but I think that's the basis behind, let's get these players introduced to international cricket at home on tracks that would benefit them, and let's see how they do.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I think the bowling department is something they're going to have to really battle through. And look, Sri Lanka are no slouches when it comes to batting. I think Venu, you might correct me, but later on, I'm assuming we're going to be more talking about their bowling rather than batting in terms of strength. I mean, I don't know, but we'll get onto that, I guess. Keegan Peterson. So quite a funny thing that I read was Quick Info saying that they found another KP, but this time I think he will be playing for South Africa rather than England. He's averaged
Not too
over
late.
50. Yeah, he's averaged over 50 for the third straight summer. This guy, and obviously he's now been picked, and he's looking potentially to make his debut. Go on, Ashad.
He's also withdrawn from the squad
Really?
because of the COVID thing. Him and
Oh my
Hendricks both.
God,
Yeah.
carnage! Oh well, that's a big. That's a big miss because he's obviously on form. Okay, well, perfect. We don't have to talk about him. Great. Okay, let's move on. Okay, Venu, is there anyone in the squad that you've seen that you're surprised about, or anyone that you want to touch upon that you're maybe looking forward to seeing, or you think Green needs to kind of make a big impact for South Africa, considering as we've been discussing about they're falling like flies and they're a bit depleted?
Yeah, I do think the batting, that's what Sri Lanka will look to exploit during the series. It's interesting to see. I think Dean Elgar is probably the key wicket from that batting lineup because he's a quality player. He's hit some really good knocks in the past. I'm disappointed that Rabada's not playing because obviously the injury, but looking at Anotia I'm looking forward to seeing him bowl at 90 plus MPH to the Sri Lankan batsmen. So I'm looking forward to that actually.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it'll be interesting contest. And I don't think it's as black and white and as easy as people might think. I think a lot of people who are not as knowledgeable on cricket will be thinking this is going to be a walk in the park for South Africa, but I don't think it will be. And as Venu rightly pointed out, the last time Sri Lanka toured South Africa, Sri Lanka won the series. So I think that says a lot. Gone.
Can I add to that? So the last 4 Test matches Sri Lanka have played South Africa. They won 2-0 at Sri Lanka, and they also won 2-0 away at South Africa with the epic Pusa Pereira's knock at Durban. So Sri Lanka will be going with a good record against South Africa, and it's quite interesting to look at the Test championships. South Africa are second from the bottom. Only Bangladesh are the bottom, and Sri Lanka are only 2 places ahead of South Africa. So it'll be an interesting series in terms of the ICC Test Championship. But to be honest, it's between Australia, India, New Zealand, and England, really. But we could talk about it another time. But I just wanted to make the point that Sri Lanka have had a good record against South Africa as of late.
Yeah, 100%. And as we've said, South Africa not in the strongest position in terms of squad depth as well. Let's go on to then Sri Lanka and let's talk about that. I'm just going to quickly go through the squad very briefly. Karunaratne, as Venu said, is the captain. Kusal Pereira, Chandimal, Kusal Mendes, Ashada Fernandom. I don't think I've ever heard of him, to be fair. Janandre De Silva. Ashta's really very, very surprised, so I'm going to have to talk to him about that. They've got Niroshan Dikwela in Test matches. I'll tell you what, he gives it a whack, doesn't he? Minod Banuka, Lahiru Tiramane, Lasith Ambuldania, Wanindu Hasaranga, Durwanu Pereira, Suranga Lakmal, Lahuru Kamara, Vishwa Fernando, Kasun Rajitha, Dushmantha Chamira. Venu's scratching his head like Fazani is absolutely butchering these names. That's in Sri Lanka.
I'm just wondering how long it's going to take you.
I know, Santosh. I'm nearly there. Santosh Gunatilake, Asitha Fernando, and Dilshan Madhushankar. Okay, I'm done. Oh, that was definitely hard to get through. That's for sure, and not because of the name, just my pronunciation. Thank you. Okay, Ashad, do you want to touch upon Ashada Fernandon because you looked very distraught when I said I'm not too familiar with him?
Well, I remember him for coming to Pakistan in one of his first few ODIs and T20s and just thrashing Pakistan. That's what I remember of Fernando.
Who are we talking about?
Ushanda Fernando?
Isn't he injured for the first Test?
He is injured for the first Test, but I think Hassan just wanted to talk about him.
Okay, go for it. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So, so I remember him from that. Plus, he's got a pretty decent average so far in the 5 or 6 matches he's played. So that's the reason why I was surprised, because I think he's kind of like a shoe-in for me in the Test team as well, if he wasn't injured, but he is at least for the first Test. He should come back for the second. Correct me if I'm wrong, Venu, but from what I've read, his hamstring injury should recover by the time we get to the second Test. But he's a pretty devastating batsman.
Yeah, so 6 matches. I've just got his figures here. He scored 100, 150, average of 43. Yes, impressive, to be honest. Very impressive. Early doors. He's only 28 as well, so he's got a good number of years left in him, I'm sure. And seems like someone that Sri Lanka are probably glad they found, because batting wise, they have a few holes in there, don't they? I'd assume, from what I know anyway, from what I've seen. Okay, let's go through a couple of. So, by the way, they've got 7 fast bowlers to pick from. I'm sure some of them must be injured. I'm not surprised if they would be. But it's Luckmal, Kumara, Chamira. Chamira I watched in the Lanka Premier League. Looks quite good. Fernando, Rajitha, 2 Fernandos, Vishwa Fernando and Asitha Fernando. And apparently, well, they've got 2 bowlers really who can bowl kind of express in Kumara and Chamira. Venu, are we going to see a good bowling display from Sri Lanka? Because they've also brought in Hasarango, who bowled very well in the LPL. Obviously, it's a different format, but kind of exciting leg spinner. They've also got a couple of other young bowlers, 23-year-old and 20-year-old in Asitha and Dilshan Madhushankar as well. So they've got some new faces or relatively fresh faces in. What are we going to see from Sri Lanka? A fearless brand of cricket potentially?
I hope so. It's quite interesting to point that 2 years ago when Sri Lanka lost to South Africa, they had a lot more injuries and they won that 2-0. So I think Sri Lanka will be happier that they've got a better pace attack. And Lahuru and Kumara looks in a decent touch. He's a decent bowler. And Dushman for Chamira and also Lahuru Kumara both were bowling more than 145 kilometers per hour in the LPL last month. And they've got to add variety. They've got the left arm swing bowler in Vishwa Fernando and the right arm seam of Kasun Rajifa. So there's some variety in their pace attack, which always helps. Now, hopefully, Luckmal is. Hopefully, he can play. I think he picked up a slight niggle, but still, they've still got a good pool of pace bowlers, which they didn't really have last time they toured South Africa. So I think that will be a benefit for Sri Lanka for sure.
Yeah, you don't normally associate fast bowlers with Sri Lanka, do you? You normally associate spinners or, someone who will come and bowl 80 miles an hour and swing the ball potentially. Someone actually, I've forgotten his name actually. I'm a massive fan of him. Swing bowler for Sri Lanka. Swings it both ways, long hair. Pradeep.
One Pradeep.
Yeah, is he injured or is he just not being picked? Does anyone know? Because I thought he was. I think he's like my favorite bowler from.
I have no idea of that one.
Let me.
I'm not sure.
I would have picked him, but I don't think he's in. I don't think he's been selected in the squad at all, has he?
No, he hasn't been. He's not in the squad at all, which is really, really bizarre. Okay, I'll have a look at that in a bit. Yeah, so obviously he's 34, so that might be why as well. To be honest, I didn't know he was that old. So that might be why he hasn't been picked. Okay, let's go on to then. Very briefly, let's discuss some of the batting. Where the run's going to come from, Asjad, for Sri Lanka. Surely they're going to have to rely a little bit on Kusal Perera, as Venu mentioned. Obviously, very accomplished in Test cricket. Go on, Venu.
Can I just add no Angela Matthews before Asjad?
Yes, sorry. Yes, I mentioned that to you before, didn't I? I mean, that's a big, big blow for Sri Lanka, isn't it? No Angela Matthews. Obviously, he is seen as the kind of premier wicket for Sri Lanka, Angelo Matthews. So that's a big, big miss. He averages, I think, just under 50 or around 50 in Test cricket. So quality. But yeah, Kusal Perera, Kanaratne, Kusa Mendes. I mean, they're probably looking to those types of players, right, to get runs, I'm assuming.
Well, I also add Chandimal to that. I think Chandimal is an absolute class. There's a player, I think you probably saw him in the LPL as well, Dasun Shanaka. I don't know if he's played before, but I thought he was pretty decent, at least in the T20 format. He's in the squad, isn't he? So I think they might introduce him because, you'd have no Angelo Matthews in the squad. And I think Shanaka does bowl a bit as well. So just potentially, I'm thinking someone like that would be a nice aggression point to add in, some sort of all-rounder in the middle, which would be very beneficial to them. But personally, yeah, I agree with you. That top three of Karunaratne, Pereira, Mendes, and then even Chandimo, I think these four would be absolute key for them. I read somewhere, I think it was Cricket4Us, that they've got Hasaranga in the squad, and yes, T20 format again. Hasaranga did pretty well, didn't he, this season in the LPL? So maybe he's just coming off good form. I know Venu might argue with me that that's a different format, so entirely different mindset. But at the same time, I think form also can be translated from one format to the other. So maybe someone like that would be good for them to add in. But yeah, personally, that top four needs to be holding up the batting, in my opinion.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, Venu?
Not really. Just Matthews will be a big miss, but it'll be interesting to see how these newer players that are coming in will manage. So it'll be nice to see some of the young players given a chance, and hopefully we're able to perform.
I think
go on, sorry.
Matthews got I think Matthews got injured in the LPL semi-final, didn't he? Yeah, and that was very disappointing because he's such a brilliant player, and he was batting well, bowling well in general throughout the tournament as well. So
can I just say something? Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
So Pakistan are missing Babar Azam, their key player. India are missing Virat Kohli, their key player, and Sri Lanka are missing Matthews, their key player. So the Asian sides, it doesn't look good for them, but it's annoying. But oh well, what can you do?
Bangladesh don't have Shakib Al Hasan either. They're not playing any tests at the moment, but you know.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, you know what though? One thing I will say is that for Sri Lanka, I do feel like there are exciting times ahead. From discussing the Sri Lankan squad, I don't remember the last time in the last few years where I've looked at a Sri Lanka squad and thought, you know what, I can kind of see Sri Lanka in the next couple of years developing, and you know, these youngsters coming through regularly, if that makes sense, and kind of putting together a good, decent, strong test team, especially. Let's forget about the other formats for now, because we're talking about Test cricket. So for me, it's quite exciting, especially these youngsters, and Hasaranga as a leg spinner, as someone who bowls a bit of leg spin. I'm quite excited by him. Interesting to see how he does, if he does get a chance as well. Asjad, you're going to say something before we wrap up?
Yeah. Just in terms of spinners, I think Ambaldinia is pretty good as well, and he'll probably be in the starting 11, in my personal opinion. One thing just from what you were saying, Mickey Arthur is their coach, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I see something similar to what he did for Pakistan, right? He improved Pakistan in every facet that I can remember. Yeah. He brought in younger players who became better as time progressed. And this is something I think he's done with Sri Lanka as well. Brought in players, young players, who are at the prime or the start of their careers, but are doing so well that they can gel into the squad very well. So I think Mickey Arthur, in my personal opinion, is a big deal for, you know, allowing these young players to join the test squad.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, from our experience of Mickey Arthur as Pakistan fans, all I can say is good things about him. Quality coach. Go on, Manny.
And to add to that, obviously, because he's South African, he will know the conditions well of South Africa. So that will add to what Asjad just said.
Yep, 100%. I think that's a really good point. So, okay, before we wrap up, predictions. I'm going to press you guys. Venu, what have you got?
I'm going 1-1. And the only reason I'm saying that is because, unfortunately, Sri Lanka haven't played any international cricket since March, and they haven't had any warm-up matches in South Africa due to the COVID-19 complications. So I think it's a tough ask to ask the players to go straight into a test match without having much match practice. That's why I'm going 1-1 for Sri Lanka series. It'll be a drawn series, 1-1.
Okay, Asjad.
Stolen my answer right from Cricket4Us, Mr. Venu. I read the exact same thing early today, and I thought to myself, oh, I was going to say 1-1. But no, that's, 1-1, definitely. Same exact reasons as Venu, honestly. I think the COVID situation in South Africa is absolutely horrendous, to be perfectly honest. which is why these players haven't had a chance to train or anything like that. So it's even worse for Sri Lanka. I was complaining about New Zealand and Pakistan. This is even worse. Sri Lanka's going in with 9 months of no international cricket, and then being pushed into this series right at the end of the year. So yeah, I'm going 1-1, especially because I think Sri Lanka is going to win the second one, and South Africa have a better chance of winning the first one because they've had a bit more international matches experience this time around.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to disagree. I was thinking, I don't know, I didn't really have anything in my head, but after listening to your points, I think it makes sense. Obviously, Sri Lanka, a lot of the Sri Lankan players would have played in the LPL, but as we've mentioned, it's a completely different format. So it's very difficult, especially if you have been playing T20, to then transition straight into Test cricket, especially if they've had little to no, practice matches. I'm assuming they will have some inter-squad matches, but that's never the same as having, matches against other, whatever it might be, South African sides, South Africa A, etc. So yeah, 1-1 I think is a pretty solid prediction. So I'll stick with that as well. And that's a good one. Okay, anything else you guys want to touch on before we wrap up here? Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you very much, guys. Please check out Venu's cricket segment, which is called Venu's Cricket Catch Up. It's a playlist on my channel, Quality Shot. And I'll say our channel, why not? Mine called Quality Shot. And please make sure you check out the playlist. Really good videos that he does every week, puts a lot of effort into them. And we'll be releasing another one this week before the end of the year. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. And also check out Asjad's channel, Cricket4Us 2.0. We do have a joint playlist, so check out his videos as well, and you'll be able to click the link at the end of this video to his channel, so make sure you subscribe. Okay, thanks very much, guys, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks.